Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Ian Carlos Crawford.
And I'm Alex Abad-Santos. And with us today, we have best-selling horror author.
Ryan Sala.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. And we also have Comic-Con host and makeup artist.
Hi, I'm Jaremi.
Hello. I'm so happy to have both of you
Hello.
here.
We all get to talk about X-Men.
Yes.
I'm
Yay.
so excited. I've been dying to talk to people about this show.
I feel like it's like all my brain has been thinking about the last few weeks is like, I bought myself a bunch of X-Men shirts as if I'm like 14.
Mhm.
And I'm like both looking forward to it ending just because the coverage has been very stressful and it's like
Mhm.
weekly, but also I'm like, what am I gonna talk about when this show ends? Um,
Yeah.
I guess
I've already started rewatching it several times. Like, I can't stop. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Jeremy, you love X-Men too, which I learned. I
Yeah.
I have been like just like scouring to be like, who could be a new guest that actually loves X-Men? And you told me how much you loved X-Men. Have you
I
been
do.
have you been
I
like have you felt about the series so far? Sorry.
okay. Well, first off, I love X-Men. I grew up obviously watching the cartoon series, and I collected all the comic books. My very first drag name was Phoenix because I named myself after Phoenix because I love Phoenix so
Yes.
much.
Word.
Um,
Mhm.
and so, but I do have a confession. I didn't watch any of the season until literally like 2 days ago. And the reason why is because I don't like watching seasons episode by episode. Like
Sure.
it just
Yeah.
irritates me. So I like to wait and just till it's done. So I've been avoiding Twitter and all social media, just like no spoilers. But yesterday my husband and I binge watched the last few episodes. So we're all caught up now. But I'm obsessed. I love it. I dare I say he's not a huge X-Men fan.
That's okay. That's okay.
And so he was like, "Why won't you get this excited when you?" Because I was excited. He's like, "Why don't
Hmm.
you get this excited when I put Sailor Moon on?" And I'm not a Sailor Moon fan.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, I know, get gasp, but I
I
yeah, it's
only
just
watch the
not for me.
transformations. I only watch the
The little
transformations.
twirls, yeah.
I need you all to cut it out right now because I'm the world's biggest Sailor Moon
Oh
fan. I'm not going to
man.
show you my tattoo because I will have to take off my pants. But
Oh,
Is it
well,
Sailor? Is it Sailor Mars on your butt?
no,
Okay.
it's like one of her like little magic lockets. But like, I'm a big Sailor Moon person. But I
it
don't want. Look, I'm
it's
just saying.
cute. I think it's cute, but I do like myself a little bit more grittier and you know. But I heard that it does get better later. But
Sure.
I made him watch X-Men with me, and he loved it. And now he's like super hooked on it, and I love that. So yeah.
I
Wait, who's your favorite X-Man or
Yeah.
X-Woman?
So
Because
when I was
let's
younger,
be
I
real.
had X-Men Classic Comic number 2, and it was just Storm's face. And I used to have that like framed on my wall, and like just I just love Storm. And
that
but Phoenix was also my absolute Dark Phoenix, especially was my absolute just favorite. So yeah,
I feel like did you watch the 90s animated series when you were a kid?
yeah.
Yeah, I feel
Like
like so
every
many
Saturday morning on Fox.
I feel like
Hmm.
so many of us that like imprinted on our brains.
Hmm. I think as a queer kid too, it was just easier to relate to that because they're outcasts and freaks and weirdos, like from a society standpoint. So it was easy to relate to. And yeah.
Yeah, I like it's funny. I one summer we did like Summer of X-Men where we talked about the movies and some of the animated series episodes.
Mhm.
And I had the showrunners on and they're like the nicest like mom and dad. And even they were like, yeah, it was always on purpose. Like we always like when it came back, a lot of them were like, I don't know what people are talking about, pretending it's not, why is it woke now? Because it's always been that was always like the
Yeah.
point of what they've been doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I've
Um,
seen that argument on Twitter recently, and I was like, "Were y'all are y'all fans?"
right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like that's been the thing the whole time.
It's
I
basically like drag queens and their best friends
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
fighting evil.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Alex, I think a lot about what you said, how Magneto is like the gay guy in the X-Men because he's like hanging out with Rogue and like calling Storm a queen, and that's it.
Yeah, he just wants to hang out. He just wants to kiki, but he like unfortunately these humans get in the way. I mean, he just wants to have like a nice time, and it's just like, okay, who does it? Like, if you were a real person, like in the X-Men world, like, wouldn't you just want to hang out with Storm like all the time? You'd be like, what's Storm doing? I wonder what Storm's doing.
Mhm.
Do you think Storm wants coffee? Should we go get coffee with
But
Storm?
but I would want to challengers Rogue and Gambit. Like I would want to be the other guy.
Oh,
Um
stop. That's such a good idea.
so this episode is kind of a moving pieces episode is how I felt. Like it was like a little bit of like moving pieces with action, and the action's always really good in this. But what did everyone think of this episode in general? Ryan?
I loved it. I've been loving it, and it gets me every time where I'm like, oh, we've got a little bit of like narrative drama, a little bit of like the soapiness. Oh, now we're getting like action. Like I never see it coming. I'm always really happy when they're doing either of those two things. So I really enjoyed this episode. There were a few like laugh out loud moments, which I'm sure we're gonna get to, but like I don't know if it's this particular iteration of X-Men, but I find myself saying like work diva way more than I thought I would when it came to like X-Men. And just like all of you, like I loved X-Men as like as a kid. I found like refuge in just the idea of these like people in like a little academy. And so watching this episode was a little hard because it's also when like Storm comes home and sees the ruined institute. And
Yeah.
so I felt a wide range of things,
All right.
which is pretty spectacular for like, a cartoon.
Jeremy?
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of like, okay, bitch.
Yes.
Yeah, happening. Which then my husband just like, what the fuck? Yeah, no, I really liked it. So I was reading up a lot about it too because it's not what I remember from my childhood.
Mhm.
And so I did have the comics, but I like to draw and paint, and probably goes hand in hand with being a makeup artist and stuff. So I had the comics, but I really collected the comics and like the trading cards and the flair and the tops and all that because I loved the art and I would like replicate the art. So I never read any of the comics. So coming back to this and hearing like finding out all this information has been really fun to learn about stuff. So, but I was on my phone like Googling like who the fuck is this? And like,
No, oh my God.
what's happening
Same.
here? Yeah.
I both learned that Professor Xavier had died and wasn't dead. Like
Yeah.
in the same like
Yeah.
episode. I was like, oh my God, there he is.
Yeah.
He's married to some like intergalactic bird woman.
This episode, I mean, we'll probably get there, but I felt like this episode was a perfect example of how they're both not correct. And they're like, this is why the women need to take, like, I kept thinking, like, I'm gonna go with Storm. Like, what's Storm's thing? Like, because she can start her own school, because I would go with her. Or like, if we do bring Emma Frost in next season, I would follow her. Because like Xavier just like has been failing left and right in this series, and like I don't know, dude, it's hard to come back to like Earth when your school is blown up. Being like, am I too late? Well, kind of. Like,
I mean, he really likes child soldiers and made a whole school full of them. So I don't think that I think in real life, this guy, I think what the series seems to understand more than like the other, I think, literature and a lot of the way that people talk about the X-Men is that Charles Xavier has his faults. And it's just like, okay, well, like, isn't the whole idea, isn't that saying like insanity is keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result? And it's just like, okay, well, isn't this man a little bit insane? Because you're just like, let's help all the humans and we can assimilate. And then it's just like every single time there's almost like a giant massacre telling you no matter how much you assimilate, people are gonna get you. Like the humans are gonna kill you.
yeah, and like
So, I don't know. I don't blame Rogue for putting on her bad girl outfit and then going with the sexy Magneto. Why would you? I don't blame her at all.
wait, I have something. Did we all know that, like, I only learned this yesterday? There's like a whole subset of a certain stan Twitter subsect of a certain pop star that like thinks this show is sexist because of the women.
Are we talking about Swifties?
Yeah, we are. Of course we are.
Okay.
Like
No,
how
don't.
they
I
portray the women.
I haven't seen this, but I can guess.
You mean how they portray the women in here?
Yeah,
Well, I do think it's that tired trope of like, oh, the women they're too weak to control their power, and like it's always constantly that we're going back to, which is I do find is kind of silly because they don't really do that with the men with any of it, so I could understand where they would come from that standpoint,
but that's
Is that what the argument is?
their argument is Rogue. They think Rogue is being portrayed as a really like bad person.
Oh, I really liked her story.
But how? Like how bad?
That's what I said. I was like, oh, I think they're giving her like some of the most character development. Like I really have loved her.
She's in mourning right now, so like she's gonna have this like natural reaction.
Right. But the thing is that she's acting, that's not like her, blah, blah, blah. But like you said, it's like grief. She's
They grew up
fucking
with
grief.
her, or
No, no.
Jump.
And the arc of her grief has turned out to be very important, and we'll sort of get to the moment when like she chooses sides, but like that moment they could have just sort of thrown that in there and chalked it up to like love or whatever, right? Because she has this affair with Magneto, but ultimately like it takes a really well articulated subplot of grief to sort of navigate why she's making this decision and like for who and for what version of herself she's like now fighting for. And I thought it was really well done. And so I don't really agree that
I
she's being poorly depicted.
as soon as Magneto was like make a choice, I was like, oh, Rogue's going with him. Like
I love when she draped the jacket over like Professor Xavier. She's like, hold this, sweetie.
She
I'm
used him
betraying
as a
you."
coat hanger.
Yes.
It's like-
It's like diva.
But like I got it, right? Like I was like, there's no way she's staying with Xavier. I wouldn't if I were Rogue either. Like, oh, the
Mhm.
like guy I was in love with for all these years got murdered because, and you still think this is working? Like,
Mhm.
it's not.
I also feel like it's like that whole thing about like how I viewed it as a child versus how I view it as an adult now. And like me personally, like Xavier, you left us and everything went to shit. And then the Magneto actually stopped. And I was not a Magneto fan. Now I'm like obsessed.
Same.
Yeah, no, I love him. But I was like, I would go where I felt most trusted, or like,
Mhm.
in the hands of someone that I trust. And Magneto's doing all that. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
I think one of the the subtext of it all is just like we're all gay guys and we're all gay and queer LGBTQ, and it's just like, okay, well, I think the whole thing is like the very real life idea of like, okay, well, if this guy, like, we all have that friend, right? That's like, if we just assimilate, like if we're just like
oh god, yeah.
like
Yeah,
if we
you're
just
saying Xavier's like a log cabin Republican, and Magneto's like a yes kink at Pride gay, right? Like that's kind of the
yeah,
division that I see. I
yeah,
feel like
if those were like the two options, like of course I'm gonna have fun on like the island of Pride, right? Like I'm gonna
yeah.
go over there. I'm not
Is
gonna
there
fucking
pup play on Krakoa? Like it's like a Genosha
yeah.
or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's very strange that like, and I think like that might speak to like a gay audience in a way that like, okay, well, if you never felt like oppression and how like
Mm.
pervasive it is, of course you're gonna probably be like, Charles Xavier wasn't that bad. But like I
Yeah.
think like growing up and it's just like, okay, decade after decade, we see the real life versions of this. It's just like, of course we're gonna go to Magneto's Island. Of course we are.
Alex, I don't remember if it was your last episode, but and I wish I could attribute, I don't remember who tweeted this, but I did see a tweet that was like Professor Xavier and Magneto, like they didn't have to develop their characters for Magneto to seem more right than Xavier. It's just like as time progressed, Magneto has seemed more correct. And like they didn't really need to do much different to either character to make it feel that way. And same thing as you, Jeremy. I never like I loved Ian McKellen's Magneto because of course he was like this like
Oh, so
queen,
good.
like insulting people and shit. But like I never was that big on Magneto. It was like, yeah, whatever.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
this I have loved
No,
him.
like,
I
I'm
would
rooting
follow
for him.
him. And
Yeah.
and I want to marry him.
Yeah, it was over for me the moment he had that peekaboo shoulder moment.
Mhm.
Oh.
Like I was like, oh, I'm yours. Here I go.
Ryan, I feel like you would wear that outfit.
It's true. I was just sewing it a second. I didn't finish it in time for the episode, but I'll have it for tomorrow.
His gloves, his opera gloves.
Gloves. Oh my god. Diva. Like so good.
So we open this episode with Xavier kind of going through the destroyed mansion. I can't remember if in the original cartoon, I know in the comics this happened a zillion times, but I can't remember if the mansion ever got like demolished the way it
Destroyed.
was. Yeah.
I feel like it did get destroyed a few times.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's got
It's been
But
through a lot of shit.
I feel like it would be like Juggernaut through a wall, but not like totally demolished. I don't know. But either way, I was like, oh, they're home. Like it actually I was like, oh, where are they gonna go? Like I
I
hated
do love
seeing it.
they like show the outside of the mansion completely destroyed. And then eventually when Storm shows up, they like knock on the door falls in, and she's like, hmm. And then she sees a giant hole in the floor. She's like, what happened here? It's like, how'd you presumably you flew here, honey, but she saw the hole in the floor and was like, then she was worried.
We get like a weird montage of like Bastion with his zombie sentinel mom.
Techno mom, yeah.
Mhm.
I was like, dude, what are you crying about? You did this to her.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. I guess she'll be fine. I didn't know about that, what he was doing. But then we get, and I have a question for everyone. I have a question for the class.
Okay.
Jubilee and Roberto, and Jaremi, you just binged it, so maybe you can answer. Jubilee and Roberto, this episode are on the run. Weren't they just arrested last episode? Like, wasn't it? They had the like collars on last.
Yeah, but didn't the Magneto wave break all that stuff? So I think that's what undid the collars.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God you're here. I was wondering that too.
Yeah. So everything shut down, so they escaped.
That makes more sense. I was just like, I mean, I guess they're like they just like beat them up and took off their collars, but that makes more sense.
What did Magneto do? What did he do? I watched it and I saw the effect of it, but was it like a worldwide EMP?
Yeah, I think that's what it
Mhm.
was. Like he went over to one of the poles and was like went Omega level and basically shut everything down. And I think like maybe we needed like a couple shots of just like what that would look like of like, okay, well, everyone with a pacemaker is dead, right? Like,
Right.
or
Oh shit, I didn't think of that.
or like everyone in a plane is dead, right?
Right.
Or that, I didn't think of that either.
No,
Everyone
instead we get the people chasing Jubilee and they're like, there's no power. We're gonna get ya. Like that's kind of the repercussion.
Yeah, I also was unclear. I was like, is that like the thing he did last episode? I was like, maybe it's just like it's a specific kind of like electro whatever that affects, but no, it affects everyone because that's, you know, I saw everyone on Twitter being like, well, Magneto's right, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but he did like anyone who's like in any kind of like helicopter or plane, or like you said, Alex has a pacemaker or a breathing machine, they're all dead.
At the hospital.
Or at the hospital. A baby that was just born is probably dead. Like kind of a lot of people around the world are probably dead because of what he did.
But that's that's what they're trying to evoke, is that human emotion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a little bit not glad, but I'm like, we have like, okay, we do have a counterpoint, because otherwise I would have been like, what are we mad at him for? Because he got rid of the Sentinels. Because I did assume it was like something specific, but it was just a regular EMP wave. So that makes it a little bit more like, all right, now I get why they're like freaking out, because he did murder. And the thing I kept thinking of, and I meant to look her up on TikTok to see what her ad is, I can't remember. There's this woman who's really funny. She does like TikToks that are like that one black girl at, and it's like Hogwarts, or like and she does one where it's the other black girl at Xavier's mansion. And it's her talking about, well, Magneto's right, but he always goes too far. Remember when the senator melted and like talks about that? And she's like, and Charles gives me free rent, so that's why I stay here. And I always think of that, where it's like, she's like, she doesn't really like either of them, but she's like, well, I get free rent here, that's why I stay here. And I kept thinking of that in this episode. It's like, well, their free rent's gone because the house is destroyed. So Magneto in this episode does a lot of dramatic shit. Is it an asteroid? I don't know what, it was in the fucking ocean, so I'm like, maybe it wasn't an asteroid. I don't know.
So
It's in
tidbit,
an ocean, but it's got like tubes coming out of it.
Yeah.
this is a big Easter egg, actually. I don't know how many of you have watched Pride of the X-Men, which was just like this kind of one shot thing. But
I had the VHS tape of that and wore it out.
yeah, so it's like this one episode, like Fox cartoon, and basically he the whole episode is an homage to it, because Magneto pulls up this asteroid and is like, I'm gonna just kill Earth, and basically that's what happens in the original pilot of like Pride of the X-Men. Magneto like resurrects or Magneto has a base called Asteroid M, gonna kill the world. And then it's just like basically one team of X-Men versus Magneto's team, and it's just like this funny homage to it. But yeah, he gets he finds an asteroid at the bottom of the sea, and it's like, yo, this is my new base.
This is mine.
That's great. Good for him.
But Alex, wasn't Asteroid M in the 90s series? Like, isn't there an episode where he makes Asteroid M and Fabian Cortez like betrays him?
Yeah, there's a lot of comic stuff, but I think what you're seeing is and those obviously like all the source material is comic books, but like if anyone really wants like the good stuff, go you could YouTube like Pride of the X-Men with a Y.
Yeah,
and it's so fun.
The whole thing is on YouTube. It's basically, and what they did the X-Men arcade game off of from when we were kids. That was my introduction to X-Men, was actually that arcade game on the boardwalk. And I just thought it was like a fun video game. I didn't know it was a comic book. And then I slowly learned.
The marketing was genius.
It was. And it literally like, right, Alex, that arcade game basically is like it's like the exact things from that cartoon put into a video game.
Is it the arcade game where there's like 4 stations and
Mhm.
you can sort of like
Mhm.
I was just playing that recently at like Barcade in New York.
And you need to like camp out to pick Storm because like Storm has the one joystick on the end, and you're like,
It is that and Street Fighter are the only arcade games I ever beat in an arcade as a kid. Um,
Wow, what a nerd.
Dork.
so
Loser.
who comes in? Fuck you. Who comes in to save Jubilee and Sunspot, Jeremy?
Oh my God. Wait. Comes
It's
in to
your
save them?
girl. It's
Yeah.
your girl.
Did Storm come in there and save? Oh, that's right. She came up from the top of
Yeah.
and Forge, right?
Yeah.
And yeah. Oh my
Looking
God, I forgot
great.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just electrocuted. Well, she just put a thunderbolt down and kind of scared them, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I felt very good having Storm back. Because I know like I understand why she has, she had her own like plot, but I was definitely missing her.
Yeah.
And I missed her also her voice in like the arguments they've been having. I felt like
Mhm.
she would have been helpful to be there because she is no nonsense, but doesn't like yell or just like, no, we're not doing that. Absolutely not. Like there's no freak out with Storm. So I feel like she would have been a good buffer to be there, which is probably a reason why she wasn't there. So same Jubilee when she like hugs her and starts crying, is like, Storm, you're back. I was like, I know, mom's back. And it
And she
felt,
looks so cool now in her new little black outfit. Oh,
and Ryan, that is her original costume
Her
from the
classic,
comics.
yeah.
Yeah.
Her
I
head,
remember. I
her
like the white
headpiece.
one a little bit more,
Mhm.
but I think the black one is, I think it looks so good
All
too.
right.
I like them both.
So my hot take is I know everyone's been loving these new old costumes. I like the other ones better. I haven't really loved these ones. I like
Mhm.
Jubilees because it looks updated. The rest of them just look so dated. It looks like we're going
Mhm.
backwards. And I really hate that stupid green dress on Jean Grey. Like I hate
Stop. I want to talk about this so badly. She looks so super goofy. Like what St. Patrick's Day parade are you going to or coming from? You were so powerful. How come you can't intuit using your telepathic abilities that you look like hot garbage mama from the people around you?
Ryan,
Are
you
they
are the
shit?
only gay person that has ever agreed with me on not liking that
I
green
got warning
dress.
texts. My friends know that I'm here right now, and they were like, "Do not complain about the dress. Do not steal the show about the dress." And I was like, "I can't." Like, it is such a pet peeve. There was one very beautiful cover of Jean Grey in that where she's like walking through a portal. It's like a gorgeous. I think it's like an alternative cover. I forget where it's from, but like, she just looks so insane in that little outfit.
it I couldn't believe that they brought it back in the comics and kept it on her for a while because it
Mhm.
just looks like a 70s, and I mean that's what it is, like a dress
Yeah.
from the 70s, but it looks like that with a stupid fucking mask on. um
I like the mask.
I
I
was gonna
kind
say,
of like
Alex, counterpoint. I know you have a counterpoint.
what? No, I like it. I think it's very flattering on
All right,
her.
Jeremy, what do you think?
Yeah, tie break.
I think well, I'm indifferent. So I like that it's like a nod to throwback. I think that's really, really cool to see as a fan. But I also think as a fan, we've grown, so they could kind of grow too with this. And I think having a new interpretation of it would be fine. But I also, when I look at the mask on her, just as someone that does hair and makeup, it really pisses me off because I don't know where her hairline is, and I don't know if
Mhm.
that's the bang or if she has it back. Like it really throws me off because you don't see it because it's the mask and then the hair is coming off the mask.
That
I
is
also
true.
love like the idea of like Jean Grey having terrible taste, like a 5'11", like omega
Mhm.
level telepath, just beautiful woman, just having awful taste.
Yeah, I do like all those little outfits though. I think they're fun. I
It
get
is
excited when I see them. Like throw it back to that. And,
it
yeah.
is like fun, yeah.
Wait,
Mhm.
can we also talk about like the weird like dressing room they have where they have like the mannequins of like Storm and
With
whatever
the
Mhm.
wigs.
with the wigs? Why did they have the hair? Is that not Jean's hair? Is she put on a wig before she
I
fights?
do love the idea of her and Storm being like, they have the same hair, but they're like, all right, let's put our wigs on like top of the hair that's exactly the same, just for
Do you
like,
think that they're like, let's put on our battle wigs? It's battle wig time.
They should get like the like unobtainium wig made that like Magneto should have like a wig on top of his helmet that shields him from
My
telepathic
God.
assaults. I think that's where the truth, like, can you imagine
I
someone
thought
tries
that
to like
dressing room was so cute. I thought the little mannequins were so cute. I was like, oh look, they're putting on their little outfits.
I did see someone ask Bodemayo on Twitter, like, why do they have the wigs? And he was like, I'm so gay, I just didn't give that a second thought. I just thought, of course they would have wigs on the mannequins, which
of course, and also look, there's one bald bitch among us. We know where those wigs are going.
Speaking of said bald bitch, Cyclops and Professor X have their I guess they're like having it out moment. And I really like that Jean is like, speed it up, boys. We have a lot of shit, when she's like, make it fast. I think this Jean Grey has been, I mean, I guess this is kind of true of most of the characters, but it's been like the best portrayal of Jean outside of the comics that we've gotten. Because I really liked Famke Johnson, but they just didn't give her enough to do. I liked her in the original Dark Phoenix saga in this animated series was great, but she still was fainting all the time outside of that. I don't know. What do you all think? Jeremy,
I
what do you
like her.
Yeah, no, I like her. I like her character in here. I like all the different emotions, all her battling. I mean, I like all of it. Although that is controversial to say to some people because they're like, "Oh, she's weak. You're making her weak." But I like that. I like that inner fight and stuff, and the character build. And I think I like it. I enjoy it.
Alex?
I mean, I like her friendship with Storm, and I also like, but also like it's very funny in that like she could easily like she was like, I'm not going to be the bridge between you two. She's like, you guys have to do it because both of them could. I mean, for a lot of comic books history and a lot of like the way we've seen the X-Men portrayed, Jean's always like that middle person that's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I'm gonna be the one, like I am the woman at the center of all these men talking to each other, right? And this I guess iteration, you have her being like, no, you guys fucking fix your shit. You have like daddy problems, you have son problems, you've
We're all
both have
adults.
you have abandonment issues. Let's fix this.
Yeah, and they kind of don't, right? I really feel really, especially after this episode, I've been saying this most of the season. I feel like we're definitely leading to like a split in the like teams. Because like, Cyclops, what I think the scene ends with him just walking away, right? Like Xavier gives him this big, you know, whatever speech, and Cyclops just kind of walks by him. He like puts out his hand and he just is like, bye. And I like the idea that we'll have a split up, but I couldn't predict what the split would be because they're going in such different ways with so many different stories. Because like Schism would be, I guess, a thing that I feel like would be a story that they base it on, but we're in such a different spot, right, Alex, from like where the comics were at that point, that like I don't know. But I wouldn't mind seeing the Jean Grey University or Academy. Storm Rogue wakes up from her coma. Storm and Forge get to the mansion. They kind of we learn that Beast and Forge have been friends. I don't think we knew that in the cartoon before. Like I don't think that was pre-established, right? Alex, wasn't it just Forge in this timeline was only seen in that X Factor episode? Other than that, he was always in the future.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the fun part with Forge and Beast is when they're making like they're like, oh, how do we defeat Bastion? And Storm is like, yeah, guys, tell me how you guys are doing this. And they're just like, we made a neutralizer, and it's like you hear the Kill Bill sirens go off in her head, and she's like, what neutralizer?
I do love that she's just like stands there again because Storm isn't gonna yell, and she's just like, no.
Well, it's kind of fun because like it's like to really play her, like you need her to be kind of like a square. Like her comedy isn't slapstick usually.
Right.
Like you need her to be more of like a fish out of water, or a little bit of like
Or like
a
straight
kind of,
man.
or like a person like out of space and time. Like this is a goddess who has to deal with normal people, and it's just like normal people talk to me. And of course, like neutralizer is the one word you can't say. I guess neutralizer with the hard R. One word you cannot say to Storm.
It's like you do not say that word in front of
do
Storm.
not say neutralizer in front of Storm.
I do love the transition into that scene too. Like they're like, it's all like it's time to get to work, and then it's like a jump cut to just like the two boys like zapping a little thing. Like, oh, come on, nerds! Like everyone's, I'm sure, doing something important, but they're like doing something pointless. And then Storm comes in, and she just walks up and goes, "Impress me," or something. Like that's her like line in that scene. It's so good. There's like something to be said about the pacing of the show and how so much happens in every episode, but the timing is so perfect with some of these conversations that like it is its own form of dialogue. Like the comedic timing is there. Like there's like a slapstick moment with Storm. Like they do a really good job with, I don't know if it's called like editing or what, but like within the the context of the show, you would think that the episodes were so much longer because they do leave breathing room when it's necessary. And I think that's like definitely in that scene at least.
Ryan, I was going to ask you what you, as the resident author who's had numerous books published, I was going to ask what you thought, because I've seen people like a little bit debate the pacing, and it is fast paced, but I don't think it's to its detriment. Like, I think it works really, and I think, like you said, they still let it breathe even though it's fast paced, right?
Yeah, I think the pacing's wonderful, and I think that they go for the jugular very regularly when it comes to dialogue. Like, I think of that dialogue between Jane and Scott where she's like, whole universe has beckoned me, but I'm here with your goblin ass. Like, that whole thing, it's such like a good dialogue. And of course, like, you know, it's overwrought, but it's necessary because you need to convey that these people are having a like highly emotional, highly like pivotal conversation that's long overdue. So of course they're not gonna reach for just like the available chit-chatty type of dialogue. They're gonna reach for their like nuclear grade like assault weapons when it comes to like what they need to say to each other. And I really appreciate that the show understands like the soapiness and why we like that as fans. And like, sure, you might not get all the levels of it as you're watching it the first time, but these things are built for rewatchability. It's 30 minutes, right? Like, you want to be able to sit back down and see something new, and the density that is sort of portrayed in like the show means that there's actual like depth to it. And you see that with like even like it's the dialogue, it's the pacing, but it's also even like the backgrounds, right? There's a whole subplot when they get to Genosha. There's like a lesbian subplot like in the background. And the lighting and like the ambiance is really beautiful, and it feels like something crafted to invite you in and have you stay a while you can sort of experience the arcs over and over again. And I love that. I like that you can sort of pick it up over and over again.
Yeah. Jeremy, what have you thought of the pacing? Was it, I mean, you just binge it all, so I feel like you could probably accurately.
I know. I want to know what that's like.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's so for watching it from start to where we are right now, it reminded me of when I watched Game of Thrones, because I did the same thing with Game of Thrones, and everybody hated. They were like, no, it didn't go well, but I watched it straight through, and for me, it felt great. I also have like ADHD, so like that actually helped me just keep it going. So I love that it was just nonstop, and yeah. I was able to retain everything too. There was nothing in there that was boring that I felt like I needed to look away from my phone or to my phone or do anything, which is great too.
Jeremy, I was about to say that's probably why, same thing with me, because like normally, even if I love a show, I'm still like picking up my phone sometimes.
Yeah, and I didn't do that.
And yeah, these I'm just like, great. And then 30 minutes and I'm done. And yeah, there's not a lot of shows.
The only time I looked at my phone is like if there was something that I needed to learn, that I was like Googling, like who's this? What happens here? Yeah. So
I live in the powers and abilities tab on Wikipedia, like me and all the other gay people looking at the powers of like a new woman coming on our screen.
I mean, Jeremy, you mentioned the cards. I used to love looking at the trading cards when they would have like power rating and like strength and intelligence. I loved that shit.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I had so many. I loved it. Mainly for the art. And I remember I had Flair came out with these humongous versions of it, and I was so excited to get all those too. But it was just beautiful. Yeah.
So they get their plan. Cable's also there. I feel like that's worth noting. And I will say, because of the fast pace, there is sometimes when I'm like, I don't really know what their plan is, but sure. Like, other than like, let's figure out how to defeat Bastion. Because can anyone tell me what is the island they went to? Because I'm still not. Is that supposed to be Krakoa, Alex? Or
in the Galapagos?
Yeah,
it's in the Galapagos,
right? But I mean, they just like they didn't like name it, right?
I think it's just as like headquarters.
Okay. Okay. Because I was like, is this Krakoa? Am I supposed to assume it is?
Maybe it will be.
Because I don't even know where Krakoa is supposed to be.
And whatever island it is, it has like an old-timey diner that is shown several times.
That is what threw me off a little bit, where I was like,
yeah, my favorite Galapagos diner. Like, here we go. Let's sit down for a burger. Crazy. Charles Darwin and me.
So then we get Magneto enters. And I love that he's like, he says something like, I'm not here to threaten you. And he's like, you came with a giant asteroid behind you to my home. And I'm like, these two queens, Jesus Christ.
Him bringing an island like you would bring like a Birkin bag is so funny. Like, he like helping people like drop their bag. He like brought his whole island, like his emotional support asteroid. Incredible.
He brought all of his stuff with him, not just
everything. Yeah, his like big bag.
And like, I mean, who doesn't love it's kind of it's like a power play, right? He's like, look, I got this
Mhm.
fucking asteroid, fuck you. And I don't know. These two have never been this compelling to me. I always
Mhm.
kind of felt like a little, I get it with them. Aside from which I don't even like the movie, but First Class when it was like these men are gonna fuck, right? But then they did not. Uh, yeah, Alex, what'd you think of this?
I thought the whole yes, I love the stunt of pulling up with an asteroid behind you.
Is
Incredible.
there a butt coming?
No, 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 no. I like that. And then I think it was I think watching the X-Men kind of be like, okay, like I feel like there's a little uncertainty in some of them, and I think that was properly conveyed of like, oh, should we go? Like this guy's kind of making some sense here. I know he's like really weird, but like, and it's also like this is also where it goes back to I think plays off of the first episode, the first couple episodes, right? Where Magneto tries to do Xavier's dream, and that's where Storm gets shot, and then he's basically like, okay, well, if we didn't have that, this would mean nothing. Like this would just be a
Mhm.
bad guy. But if you have him be like, okay, we're gonna try it your way, play nice, don't kill us. Now this whole asteroid thing makes a lot more sense because we've
Mhm.
seen him try Xavier's plan. Um,
Mhm.
but I was kind of surprised watching Roberto go.
I wa- I
I thought that made
I
sense.
got
he
it.
he's
I
a
mean,
little like it's very much this like the whole outing allegory of like oh da 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 like he can't tell his parents that he's a mutant but he's gonna go jump off like the first opportunity be like let's go to Magneto's house, let's go to Magneto's Pride Island, which like I get. Which, but I thought it was kind of funny that that was the turn because like I think Rogue's was pretty much conveyed because she puts on the Batgirl outfit which she used,
Mhm.
and it's like when someone puts on a bad girl outfit, like you kind of are like, okay, they're gonna do bad things. But like
Mhm.
him, I didn't know whether he was gonna go or not. And I guess, yeah,
you
that
If
was
I
know,
was if I
interesting.
was Magneto, I'd be so pissed. I'd be like, Rogue, yes. And then if it was like Roberto, I'd be like, oh man.
like who is
Anyone
that?
else?
Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
like who are you? Yeah.
He was like, you're my storm, come
I
on.
Yes, sure.
I thought we might the I was waiting for more people to go with him, but and the only other person I could have thought of was Morph since he also has died and come back. Like I thought he
Mhm.
might be, but we haven't really like had
Cyclops would. I think like if this were like an episode longer, Cyclops would have gone.
you think so?
Mhm. Oh my
Fair.
God, I loved Rogue dragging them one by one. She's like, who's dying next? Jean? No one gives a
Mhm.
fuck. Like that was great. And then she was like, Morph, like they were like she like they them's Morph. She's like, they were dead like 30 seconds ago, like something like that. She goes like
Yes.
one by one.
I I
She said
really
enough.
I really love when the X-Men draws attention to the fact that they die and come back so often.
And then
Mhm.
Magneto's like, you were out with your bird wife.
Bird woman, yeah, bird
Yes. Oh
wife.
my God. The library was open. I also loved, this is not like a read or anything, but I did love Rogue's line of like when she's like mourning, she's like, he was the most Cajun man I ever met. Like implying that there's like many like degrees of Cajunness like to the people. I like what a great line out of Rogue.
Yeah, I genuinely have loved everything about Rogue. Like the way they've done her.
So funny.
I have loved all of it. This makes sense.
Hmm.
I haven't read, I mean, I haven't reread X-Men comics in a while, but this is based on like the storyline called Fatal Attraction, where Colossus leaves. Um, and Bodemaya was tweeting today about how Rogue, which is true, has kind of always been the parallel. Like she's gotten the Colossus role in a lot of the things in the animated series when they do like the Dark Phoenix saga, when she's fighting
Hmm.
Gladiator, that's Colossus that does that in the comics. And like because she's like the brawler, I guess. She gets a lot of his stuff, and so it makes sense that he would be the one to defect, or she would be the one. But also, like, it just makes sense anyway because it made sense for her character this season. Um, I'm wondering, Alex, do you think they'll redo the acolytes since they've already done them in the cartoon, or that's what
Well, if
I'm
he's
wondering about that.
I mean, we don't know because we don't know if Magneto's even alive at the end.
He's alive. Give me a break. Um,
Do they ever explain how he survived that big blast? Like in Genosha?
so that's a that I'm glad you brought that up because
So the answer is no. Okay.
because when he talks to Charles, he says, I watched that child's eyes vaporize. I'm like, but then wouldn't he have vaporized? Like,
yeah, that doesn't make you look good, Magneto. That your little force field like shrunk to just you and you were like, oop.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh my God, sorry. Oh my God, you're vaporizing. Ew, get off of me. Gooey little child. I don't know.
Aw,
Poor
so sad.
Leech.
It is sad.
That Green Goblin child made me cry so much.
It was
Jesus
so
Christ.
sad, yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
Alex, do you know how he survived?
I don't think that there's a good explanation.
I
I
think
mean,
it's-
the whole idea is like basically if Bastion can talk to the Sentinels, right? Then Bastion probably could keep him alive.
True.
If that's, I mean, I don't know.
I'll accept it. I'm just wondering if there was an explanation. Because I didn't think that they
With shit
ever
like
showed.
with shit like that in comic books, I feel like it's always just like, oh, they teleported out at the last minute. Like, sure, Bastion teleported him and
Left the child.
yeah, left the child.
Yeah.
So they go to Muir Island to get their shit. I saw an Easter egg is the motorcycle that is next to the Blackbird is a Wolverine toy they released in the 90s.
Oh, cool.
It has Wolverine's colors on it. That's what it is. It's just the art like that put into the cartoon. I did like Cable and Cyclops' conversation because I liked when Cable was like, oh, you're going to tell me to be careful. And he's like, no, give him hell. So I do that is kind of to your point, Alex, of like, we're getting there with Cyclops, right? Because he's not quite being like the goody two-shoe Boy Scout. I mean, I have liked him in this series way more than I usually do.
I also think what's really funny in this episode is Cyclops is like, okay, here's the teams, and it's like the gay team and then like the straight guy team. And it was just like, I want to see what the gay guys are doing, or what the gay team is doing. The gay team is so much more fun than the other.
Wait, who's the
team.
gay team? The one with Storm on it?
The one with Storm and Jean.
Yeah.
That's the gay team.
Yeah,
Also,
and the
why would you
shape-shifting
divide it like
Dana.
that? Why would
Yeah.
you divide it like that? Like you don't want the all-powerful weather goddess with you when you're going to go up against Magneto? Like, who's picking the
He's
teams
in
here?
space. What is she gonna do? Like gust him with solar winds?
What is the draft pick here? How would Leech drafted?
Okay.
So a good point. I mean, but none of the teams fare very well. So I guess at that
I
point,
don't know. And also, if you're going up against Bastion, what do you want Nightcrawler to go in and just like poof and like poof and like
No,
poof?
but I think didn't they switch Nightcrawler to the other team so that he could? Because originally he was supposed to teleport them to Muir Island or whatever, right? But then they switched, and that's how like Nightcrawler got them out of the jet, so that Rogue, when she pried it open, they weren't in there, and she goes, "Damn you, elf!"
Yeah.
Oh,
Right?
right.
Yeah, that took me on my second watch to figure out, and I'm still not sure that I have that right, but I'm
Ryan,
pretty sure that's why.
I want you to know I had not put that together.
Yeah, no, I think they switched the team that Nightcrawler was on specifically so they could like outsmart Rogue, because Rogue was going to see them coming, and Rogue was present for them concocting the plans.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense.
You guys would never survive this. I just want to let you all know. I'm the only one.
I would follow. I'm just following wherever Storm goes.
Wherever
I
Storm
go.
goes, yeah.
That's pretty fair. Yeah.
So we see Professor Xavier talking to President Kelly. I kind of liked, like, you know, I don't have any love for this character of Kelly or whatever, but like, I kind of loved him being like, why would I trust you? Because he's right. Like, Professor Xavier has failed at every single turn, especially this season. You know, he left the mansion to Magneto. He was up in space while everyone died.
Kissing birds.
Yeah, I kind of am like, Xavier, I hate to say I'm siding with the president over you, but like, I probably also wouldn't trust you to like get whatever done you are saying you need to get done. I don't know, Jeremy, what'd you think?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I know you were talking about Cyclops earlier too. I have to go back to this because I don't want to cut you off, but I just have never liked Cyclops. There's just nothing about him, and even like watching this, I just still can't stand him. And it probably does remind me of this like straight frat guy mentality. And I'm just like, God, you're so annoying. I don't care what happens to him. So I'm like, okay, cool.
Get him.
Literally, I mean, he's so irritating. But yeah, I just don't yeah, no, sorry, what was the question about Magneto?
Wait, no, about Xavier and how
president?
like the president's like, I don't trust you to get this done.
Oh, well, because Xavier's just a fuck up, man. Like, what do we have to believe? Like, what do we have to go on?
Like, where's the
Also,
evidence
I
that
kind
you've
of
achieved
controversial, but I
anything?
kind of think like the only thing he did get right was putting it in Magneto's hands. I feel
I
like we
mean,
needed that.
I just feel like, but Magneto then didn't. I don't know.
No,
I
but I
actually.
feel like everything happens for a reason. I feel like putting it in Magneto's hands, we needed that to have this happen. But I'm also Team Magneto, so maybe I'm biased. But
I mean, listen, I have never liked Magneto as much as I've liked him in this, and I actually, Alex, do you remember what I can't remember what era was it where Magneto did come back into the fold? Was it the Utopia era in the comics?
He does it a couple of times. Like
No, but I
there's
mean like
one,
in the more recent eras, like when because now he's like been back, but there was like the point when he came back. Wow. I really
I mean,
like it was like
he does. There's a run when he basically it's also the whole Roberto going with him is also kind of a nod to the when he comes back for New Mutants, and he kind of is like, "Oh, I'm your teacher now, and we're going to teach you how to do badass things and be awful." And then he comes back for Krakoa, and then he has come back and forth. But I think Krakoa is the most latest one where everyone's just like, "Yeah, this guy's
because
makes
there's
sense."
is Dark X-Men, which he is on, and then he's on Cyclops, Emma, and Magic's team
For which one?
when there's the Young X-Men too, whatever era that was.
When he's doing like Avengers versus X-Men or the Extinction? Like, there's a lot of like,
Yeah. I like Magneto as like a reluctant member of the X. Like that's my favorite version of Magneto in the comics is when he like still is himself, but is like, "Ah, yeah, sure." And like helps the X-Men, but still is like annoyed at them. That's my like that's the version I like. And I almost wish we had gotten more of that Magneto in this just because I enjoyed watching him, be shitty to everyone and but also be correct. I don't know. I like that. So whatever, everyone's like prepping. We see Jubilee like light on fire Roberto's card.
what is that business card?
He
What business does Roberto
he
have?
gave it to her in the first episode.
his
That's the
family's
gayest
business.
looking business
Yeah.
card too. It's like in like bisexual lighting font.
It's in 90s font, Alex.
Yeah,
It's
in the
so
90s, all Nepo babies came with a card. Okay, that's what you need to know first of all.
um, so we get it's Forge, Jean, Storm,
Morph.
Cable, Morph,
I think that's a
and then the other two, right? Yeah.
yeah.
This reminded me of there's an episode in the animated series where like the one where they have to fight Master Mold, and it's like there's Rogue and Jubilee are outside just fighting all the Sentinels, and Jubilee maybe gets one, but Rogue is just like punching the shit out of all of them, and the rest of them are like inside fighting Master Mold. I like that shit. I like this kind of like fully actiony type stuff, but then we still get, which I really liked, and I want us to talk about the moment between Storm and Jean. I really loved. And I think they've done a really good job with their friendship this season, like showing us how like best friends they are. I don't know. Jeremy, what do you think?
This is when they're holding their hands in the
Yeah.
back of the plane. Yeah, I mean, I saw it all over Twitter too, and I think everybody was just happy to see. And I think the most common comment is how the X-Men should be in their hands.
Yeah,
Literally, they should be in charge of everything. So, but with their two powers combined, like those two together, oh my God, they'd wreck.
they absolutely would. Yeah.
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 I also think they'd just be great mediators and just intelligence and smarts, and I don't know. I really like them. Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's why it's like, let's put them in charge because I would absolutely
Yeah.
follow the two of them. They're like way more sensible and also powerful. And like, these men are too emotional. Like, Ryan, what do you think of that scene?
I love that scene, and I love that like we got to kind of see the completion of kind of the opening conversation they had at the start of the series
Yeah.
about being unsure of kind of what they were passing on to like next generations. And I love the notion that Storm leaves them with of like, don't trust in your powers, don't trust in like a cause, like trust in each other, right? And Storm had a few lines this episode that were specific to like, we face this as we've always faced all things, like as a family, like we trust in each other. And I love that. I love that at no point has Storm ever wavered from like the mission of the X-Men and the entity that like the X-Men create, and I think she's such a cool character for that reason. I think that's why she would be an excellent leader.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex, I know
I
you agree
love
with
that.
that.
I love that little bestie speech. That little bestie speech got me when,
Mhm.
like, what was it? Whether make what
May
is
they
it?
mind your weather, and
Yeah.
may they
Whether
weather
you're
your
mine.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, who hasn't had that? Like, that's the 3 a.m. bestie speech when your bestie is like going to go home with a guy. You're just like, oh,
Yeah, when
you'll be
when I'm
okay.
taking a man home, I want my friend to be like, may he mind your weather.
You're
Yeah.
like, you're going. It's like when you're going to go home. You're gonna go home. You're in the Uber. Okay, I will see you. And it's always like this like very touching moment of like, oh my god, I don't know when I'm gonna see you again. I love you. Bye. I love you so
Alex.
much. I love you so much.
Alex, I'm always like I always feel like you are rolling your eyes at me. So I always love when you talk about a messy story. So I feel like I'm the one with the messy stories.
No, it's just like I love besties. I love women supporting other women. I love women.
I also just think it's funny that like Jean, I love Jean, but she's like Floptronica direct. Like she is constantly fainting and like failing at things. And so the notion that like Storm's gonna be like, good luck, girl, like good luck, girly pop. Like like I know Storm's thinking like you're gonna go fuck it up, like in a bad way. Like I'm about to go like cause like a twister and a lightning storm and like a cyclone and kill like 100 things, and you're gonna have trouble with like one thing. But best of luck. Like the
Yeah.
power difference between them is so funny to me.
She's like, stay blessed. But
Yeah,
no,
she's-
but I do think Jean has been way more powerful in this series. Like 2 episodes, 1 episode ago, whenever the hell they went to see Trask and it blew up and he turned into like Jean holds the building together, and I kept waiting for her to faint and she doesn't.
Oh,
yeah, yeah, good for her.
she's more confident with her powers in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because
Also that scene though when like they say goodbye and then the tornado comes and then you just see
Chills.
Storm's fucking face giving you face, and it's just like, oh, these sound
The
all...
TikTok edits of that are going to be incredible.
I just got on, I think because my phone could hear me talking about X-Men, but my TikTok algorithm just turned to X-Men.
Oh yeah.
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 Lots of podcasts, X-Men. Yeah.
Yeah. And when Storm uses her powers again, I love just like the callback, like the musical cue is the
Mhm.
same like interpolation that like they use in the first episode when she's like walking through the desert with the glass. It's like
Yeah.
the composition is really similar to of like the panned out shot with like the lightning bolts. And I'm like, yes, the book ending of her storyline feels so satisfying.
Yeah. And Ryan, I know you're a horror girly like me.
Mhm.
Alex, you're not, right?
Mm-mm.
Jeremy, are you?
Yeah, I like it. I don't mind it.
So I mean, I know it's whatever, but the town reminded me of the town in House of Wax.
Yeah.
I see that.
That's and I feel like there has been a lot of like horror influences on this series, so I wouldn't be surprised if that was like on purpose.
There's a lot
Like
of horror films like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
Texas
and
Chainsaw just had one too that was like that
Oh,
with a
yeah,
bus and
yeah.
they bought the city. Yeah.
yeah, because the Prime Sentinels I feel like are Deadites from Evil Dead. That's like what they're
Mhm.
being portrayed as. And I love it. But so they go to this town, and who does Jean Grey encounter, Alex?
Mr. Sinister. I need Mr. Sinister to be like a little like 25% more gay and like more campy.
Mhm.
Because like someone with all that cape should be a little bit like
Yeah,
less like
I referred to him as drag queen Dracula, and I
I
feel
love
like
that.
he should be more of like a campy drag queenie.
Well, someone earlier, I think it might have been Anthony Oliveira, like referred to him as Dracula, and I was like, ooh, but there's like he's a drag queen too, and like yeah, I would like him to be a little bit like queenier or like
Absurd. He needs to be absurd.
Yeah, or like even just like Magneto, where he's just like real bitchy when he needs to be. Like I don't know, he has his little like I know your jeans, Jean pun, but that's kind of it. I was a little underwhelmed by Sinister here, but I did like the fight. I'm not used to seeing Sinister do all that work, right, Alex? Normally he's like more of a like, I'm gonna sit in my chair, do some science. Ryan, what do you think of their fight?
I like their fight. I like she got him in the face with a bowling ball, like a few really good hits in on her part. I also think it's hard in general to animate fight scenes and convey things like weight, trajectory, like all of the things that like kind of make you kind of clench up during a fight scene because you like feel like you're gonna feel that blow. And they do a great job animating a lot of the action in this show, it feels like if anyone's watched like My Hero Academia, like there's a lot of experimentation with like
Mhm.
the kind of like art style during like pivotal moments. Like you'll see someone power up and suddenly like there'll be like just a few frames of like sketchy line work over like pure white, right? Indicating that there's like a glare.
Mhm.
And I think that they do a really cool job with like Jean in this, showing like the motion of it. And then again with like Cable, when he like taps into his like telekinesis, they have like a similar sort of like Kamehameha like blast that I thought was really cool. So I love the fight. I mean, I'm excited anytime the telekinetic girls are like about to get it together. Like I'm a magical girl, and I want to see like the big spell work. That's what I'm here for.
I do feel like that's very up your alley, Ryan.
Very. Oh my God, very. The like hand-to-hand combat, I'm like, whatever. But if someone can like use their mind and throw bowling balls and arcade machines at each other, that feels great to me.
It was like almost too goofy, but it worked. Like I understand they were actually in a bowling alley, but when he knocks back and we hear the like
The pin
yeah.
sound. Yeah, the like Wii Sports pin sound. Yeah, incredible.
Fantastic.
I'm also, but I'm thinking,
Uh,
I'm like, what island in the Galapagos
Has a
like a
bowling alley?
Like, what is going on here?
It's like
What?
abandoned town with a working
But
bowling
didn't he build
Yeah.
it? Didn't they say like he was building it or something?
but
But it was
that-
already like run down.
but it was already run down. That's what confused me because they did say
You're right though. He did. Yeah,
They
they
I
did
said
say
that.
he built it. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he built it to mimic something.
You think he built like a whole downtown Disney next to his volcano? So
I mean, he's building yeah, maybe.
you know, actually, yeah, you
Yeah.
kind of have more point than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It
why
reminds him of something. And
that's
so
why
he's replicating that.
Sure.
You're probably right. That's why I was a little bit confused as to what it was. So I was like, oh, he built a town. Well, this is a rundown town.
Wait, can one of you nerds Google the diner that like that because they show the full diner name, and I was wondering if that was significant.
Oh,
I
that's
think
the
like
producer's name. It's
Is it?
I think it's
Oh, was that
Demayo's
what it
Diner,
was?
wasn't it?
Maybe. I don't know. Look it up.
I don't even know what to Google. What do
I'm pretty sure it's that. I'm pretty sure it said Demayo's.
Oh, Jeremy, I wasn't
Diner.
talking when I said nerds. I was talking to the girls.
Yeah.
You don't have to
It's
look this
okay.
up. I'm just
Yeah, like I'm talking to the two asshole podcasters.
Mhm.
The Demayos?
Oh, so yeah, that is the
Demayo's
showrunner's
Oh, that's kind of
showrunner's
fun.
last name. Yeah. Um,
Got it.
all right. So there we go. We figured it out.
Okay.
So Jean does defeat Sinister, right? We feel
No,
like
because he taps Cable to like do the dirty work for him. So I don't think he's defeated. I think he just hides behind.
okay,
this
he's just like
table.
hiding. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yes, Cable comes in and we learn that he is being controlled and he's basically like a rival for her. I'm not even an anime gal, Ryan, but I kept thinking like, because as a kid, I really liked Dragon Ball Z.
Mhm.
And that's what like him and her being like, "Rah!" and just like shooting powers at each other reminded
Mhm.
me of that.
Mhm.
Jeremy, I'm curious as an artist, what do you think of
Mhm.
that? The art, the way they did that.
I loved it. It
Ooh.
reminded me of like I'm a huge Demon Slayer fan, so it
Yes.
reminded me
Oh
of
my
like
God. Yes.
that style of art too. It also reminded me of Harry Potter and Voldemort when they
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
yeah. So no, but I thought it was really beautiful, and I agree the animation in here has been really cool to see. So,
Mhm.
but a lot of it has given. I feel like now in the later ones, in the beginning, the fight scenes were okay. It gave me very 90s, but like now I feel like they're really going all out with all their abilities and everything. And yeah, no, I think it's really pretty. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do feel like shit like this just like doesn't translate well to live action. Like no matter how good the special effects are, right? Like I don't know. I mentioned this in like the scene in the previous episode when Wolverine's falling through the sky and like using his claws to like cut
Mhm.
those sentinels. I don't know that there's a way in which that wouldn't look kind of fucking stupid in live action, right?
Yeah.
And I just think, yeah, there's like a lot of stuff you can do with animation that doesn't look stupid because it's a cartoon. And this is definitely like, it looked fucking cool. But I kept thinking, like, if this was in an MCU movie, I don't think it would look.
I also just love animation more.
Me too.
And like I know everything's like Pixar and 3D and all this type of stuff, and that cool. I get it, it's changed, but like I really genuinely just love a good drawn out to cell by cell animation.
Mhm.
I think there's just
Yeah.
so much more life and fun you could have in that.
You could also
Mhm.
like in live action, you wouldn't get the scale of it. Like
Yeah.
like you wouldn't be able to do all these episodes of like this grand of a scale.
There would
Like
never be a budget for that. Yeah.
It would just
Mhm.
be. And also like you couldn't. I don't know. Like it just wouldn't look right. Like there's no way you can make this all look right in a live action.
I mean,
Mhm.
like, and I'm not one of those people. I thought this movie was fun. The Marvels, like, when it's like her face from here to here and they're doing the energy, it just kind of looks like like, I don't know. It just
You
looks
like
like,
that? You like the Marvel films?
yeah, I think they're cute. Yeah, no, I like them. I haven't
Hmm.
loved them that much
Like
as of
you would
lately.
recommend it to people?
Like,
Which
Yeah.
one?
Jeremy,
Specifically.
what are we getting at here?
I'm just
Yeah.
wondering. This is interesting take. I'm just interested.
I just find it interesting.
Jeremy being like, which one?
Yeah.
That's
That's
brutal.
cute for you, Ian, but what do you recommend of those bad movies? I don't know. I've always thought they were fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
Alex likes them too.
Which one do you like?
Infinity War, Winter Soldier are probably the best ones.
So none of the none direct, just X-Men.
Oh, X-Men. Yeah. Well, I like X2. I do think there's
You said that really high. I don't believe that.
no, because
Oh my God.
I
Like
think
X2?
those X-Men movies are very dated, but I do think X2 is good, and I think Days of Future Past is good, but the rest I don't know that I would say are good.
So I think like that's the problem again with the X-Men stuff is like you can never do a character like Storm well in live action without having to like build a gigantic set every movie.
Every time,
Or you basically make her, and what the movies did is make her a lot weaker. And so she's fighting a guy with hair, or she's making ice cubes, or she's fighting Toad, right? And it's just like, well, that doesn't make sense either, right? Like if this person can call down a tornado, why is this guy with the tongue taking her out so easily?
her
So
and Jean.
yeah, so I think that's probably highlights like why like the live action stuff or why animated stuff is better for the X-Men.
Yeah, the scale of it's way better.
Also, can I say that I can't stand the outfits in the live actions?
Well, yeah.
I just can't
Yeah,
stand it.
that's
I
fair.
just
That's completely fair.
I need camp, and it's just never there enough for me.
But
I think
it would look so crazy if they were
It
running
would.
around with like Jean's little party dress.
right, yeah, well, yeah.
I
With
think
her hairline here.
Yeah,
Well, the problem with that, right? And it's like the whole thing of like trying to make the X-Men cool was a whole lot of like shitting on like the bright outfits and like the spandex. And I think a lot of like the 90s and 90s and 2000 stuff, it was just like, oh yeah, like to make superheroes cool, we need to make them like dark leather and actually grim, and they bleed and they do all the stuff, and it's just like, okay, well then you got rid of like all the color and all like the vibrancy that like the X-Men bring.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why I like. Wait, is it this? Yeah, it is it right where they make the joke and he's like, "Oh, I got you an outfit." He's like, "What are you expecting? Black leather?"
Yeah.
I did like that because those costumes at the time I kind of liked them when I was like a teenager, but now as an adult I'm like, these look they not only do they look stupid, but they also don't like, they look ill-fitting sometimes. Like it looks like they're like moving awkwardly, which they probably were because they probably were uncomfortable. Like some of them look like it's like one piece, so they can only like move their arms like an action figure. But yeah,
like,
no.
I don't need like the neon colors or anything bright like that, but like I feel like Spider-Man does it well. I feel like even Fantastic Four, their outfits, it was way better than these black outfits. So I do think animation's it's just there's something you can't ever make up for with animation. So
I am like not a staunch defender, but I am a defender of those original Fantastic Four movies because they're so stupid. Like they actually just lean into like the absurdity of everything. They're not that good, but like
no, they're not.
They are like, at least they're having fun. And there was that other one that was really horrendous that Sony put out. Anyway, so yeah, Jean fights Cable and she's not dead, right? Like I know we get the like, Scott, I love you, and then the like he can't see her anymore. But I feel like we can't kill Jean again because we just made a joke about that this episode. I don't know. What does everyone think?
She's not dead.
She's not dead.
Not dead.
Yeah. Because I had a couple
she
people
needs
like,
a little more time. She just needs a little more time.
That's it.
I think she was calling Scott to be like she's like, Scott, like come here, I'm about to whoop your son, like, and I want you to watch
like,
me
kick your son's
you're
ass.
his father figure, like I'm about to kick this kid's ass. You're like, come on, honey, like. But I do love that like Jean. Okay, not that like it takes an author to figure this out, but Jean provides such a really interesting like capability within storytelling because like she can just like broadcast people into other scenes and often does,
Yeah.
which like you get that in like anime a lot when people have these like sort of like mental visions of what their life is supposed to be like, and they sort of communicate with like the memory of people. Like I think of Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon does this all the time when she's about to power up. She calls upon her friends and they like talk to her, right? But
Mhm.
Jean can literally like talk to people while she's doing this too, and I love that like in
Yeah,
that moment.
she's a mega level FaceTime.
Yes, yeah. And I just wish they had like a filter on her, like a fun little like mustache. Like, but I love that she called upon Scott, and it gives like such like a, I don't know, like a rich note to this like big thing because she's not just hypothetically being like, what if like what would
Right.
Scott think of this? Like Scott's literally watching, and that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. I saw some people saying they think she was maybe holding back with him because she didn't want to hurt Cable. I can see that.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, I was like, she can't be, because I saw some people be like, oh, they're gonna do Phoenix. It's like, but we did that already. Like,
Yeah.
But it's in the opening. It is in the opening. And so for the opening has been like portentous when it comes to these things. So I could, and also, you know what else is in the opening when she goes Phoenix is Scott being like, no.
yeah.
So I could see that like somehow coming to play next episode and seeding something for like season 2.
Mm.
But I don't know. I hope not. I'm really sick of that storyline. I want to do something else.
Yeah, we've done it
Hmm.
too much. And the original anime series, I think, did the best like version outside the comics.
Sure.
So we also get the Asteroid M, although I don't know it's officially Asteroid M. We get the team that's going to see Magneto.
Mhm.
Um,
The
I
team that's going to see Magneto, like an appointment.
well,
They've got a reservation on Betsy with Magneto.
um, I I was surprised where we went with this, but so, and I'm not that big on I don't care that much about spoilers. Doing this podcast, when we did WandaVision, I remember people would DM me at like 7 o'clock in the morning with spoilers being like, what'd you think of this? And it's like, but I just got up an hour ago. Why are you like DMing me a screenshot of the like when did I watch it? And that has been happening with X-Men. And I know it's
Aw.
always well-meaning, but it's like, please just ask me first if I watched. But this episode was so underwhelming for me because every single beat was spoiled by social media. And I watched it the day it came out at like 5 p.m. But like every beat, including the final image, was spoiled for me. And so I was like, well, wait, when's Wolverine getting his adamantium pulled out? And then it was like the very end. And I was like, oh, not that it's not cool and like looks awesome, but I was like, oh, that was the first thing that was spoiled for me. Like I saw that image that was tweeted like 80,000 times by 5 p.m. And you know, doing the podcast, I gotta be posting shit. So I'm like, well,
Right.
it's spoiled for me. But was it spoiled for anyone else or was it like a shock to y'all?
I was shocked.
Yeah,
Shocked.
Jeremy.
I wasn't shocked because I know about this. But I will say I'm gonna go back to the animation because this animation was so good on this scene.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
it great.
was like chef's kiss. That took my breath away more than what happened because I knew that was gonna happen, but you know, it was good.
But can we talk strategy again? You're gonna send the metal guy to go face Magneto. He wasn't gonna just send him to
Feels
Bastion.
like Storm would be the again.
What's Bastion doing?
Storm could have did a lot on these. You know what made me laugh? This is very opening when like they're all struggle busting with like the Sentinels, and then that bitch just walks in and one shots all of them. I'm like, okay, we could have did that to begin with, girl.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
you teach us a
Also,
lesson.
does Forge need to be flying that plane? Come on. She was handling the Sentinels by herself in that tornado.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I said
Pretty
we would.
much.
I forgot about finishing up that part of the. Yeah. So we get Storm and Forge. Yeah,
Oh.
Storm was doing great. And I was like, why is Forge like it feels like he's there because, you know, he's the one.
Gotta be
Someone's
together.
gotta fly the plane.
Yeah. I hope, I'm sure he will be, but I'm like, I don't want anything to happen to Forge because I love Storm and I want her to have her man. And they were the couple that was dating when I first started reading the comics. So I always kind of liked them together. He's just like, you know, what Storm would need, which is someone who's just like, I adore you. And she's
Mhm.
like, yes, that is me. Like, I hated seeing her get taken out. I did like the morph trying to trick Bastion, but not quite getting there.
Yeah, that was fun.
Because I was like, why would Sinister be? Oh, it's Morph. That's why. Like I really was like thinking like this is kind of bad writing for Mr. Sinister. But then we, had a reason why.
Mhm.
So we get all the X-Men fighting on the asteroid. I was real mad at Roberto for like, I forget what he does, but it's like he knocks Jubilee out or knocks
He
her
shoots
over.
Jubilee.
He
Yeah.
like shoots at her, right? And then he's like, I said I'm sorry. And it's like,
Sorry.
you still did that. Like, and I was so glad to see her like they've done a good job of giving her more to do and showing that her powers like can do shit because it's like fireworks.
Mhm.
Jaremi, do you have a counterpoint? I saw the look on your face.
Oh no, not at all.
um,
So in Pride of the X-Men, this is a nerdy thing. The two that fight are actually Pyro and Dazzler. And so I think the
Oh, fun.
homage between Roberto and Jubilee fighting is Dazzler and Pyro fighting.
I bet it is.
And she goes, "Leave this one to the Dazzler."
She
That's
says
like her.
that.
That's like her only line.
Yeah, because she doesn't
Oh my
really
God.
talk in it, right?
No, it's amazing though. Then she starts pelting Pyro with her Dazzler laser beams.
And if any of you want to watch it, the Wolverine voice actor is Australian, and they like give Wolverine a full Australian accent,
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
which
No,
like
I think what's fun about this though is like Wolverine basically has become like a side character. And even
Yeah.
in the like last moments, you're just like, oh, you idiots. You're sending the guy with a full metal skeleton to be the thing that like stops us between life and death and Magneto. That's what we're gonna do.
also I want us to talk about. I mean, this was again spoiled for me, which I'm so annoyed this was spoiled because I thought it was such a good moment when Magneto was like, the thing I've always wanted to say to you, shut up, and just
Oh,
like
yeah.
covers his mouth. I thought it was so fucking good.
In that moment right before, like all of them are like beginning their assault, right? Like they're running out with like powers, and then like Professor Xavier like rolls up. He's like, "Zzz. Hey, you, stop. Hey, mister." Like it's so funny. I love that his power is like dialogue.
Yeah.
And I do love that he got told to shut up.
I felt that I was like, yes, Magneto, this is what we all want to say. Yes, thank you. Tell him to shut the fuck
Also,
up.
like in the original series, Professor Xavier like puts Magneto like multiple times like through the Holocaust.
Makes him like yeah,
He's like, I'm gonna make you remember the Holocaust, and then like
relive it in his mind. Yeah.
this is like kind of fucked up a little bit.
I think Alex, isn't that like the like third or fourth episode that he does that to Magneto for the first time?
Well, yeah, he just like mind zaps Magneto, and you're just like, okay, well, he mind zapped him, and then it shows you what the mind zap is, and it's the Holocaust, and you're just like, whoa,
That feels like overkill.
too far.
Right.
Like put him into like a Zara or something. Like something horrible, but not like deadly.
A long
Holocaust.
like a Panera Bread line.
Yes. Oh my God.
He's in line at Chopped in Midtown on his lunch break and only has 40 minutes to
And the
get back.
craziest thing is, Charles Xavier could easily put Rogue to sleep, everyone to sleep, if he wanted. Just put him to sleep.
I do think
not
that
like sleeps, not like
right.
dead sleep, just like zonk.
I do think that is the problem with Magneto or Xavier and Jean is that they are, even in something like this, they are so powerful that it's like, okay, but they could be doing 10 other things. And that's always been like, in the comics, it depends on who's writing them, right? That's why anytime someone's like, this character could definitely defeat this character, and it's like, it really just depends on who's writing them. That's how they would, like, you know what I mean? There could be like a stupid whatever. Sometimes they create a loophole. It just always depends on who's writing the characters as to.
Sure.
I feel like they do that too on purpose though, because like Xavier's whole thing is like resolution talking and all this stuff without having to do that. So I feel like that's another reason why they don't do the most in that situation, which is frustrating because if I had that power, bitch, yeah. All of y'all.
I would be a problem.
Yeah, no, 100%.
We'd all be in Panera Bread.
At the front of the line.
A thing I just saw like right before this recording on Twitter is that what Wolverine says to him when he's like, I've been in a lot of wars.
The brave always die first.
Brave always die first. Magneto says that in the animated series in the 90s. Like that's something he says to them. And I like that. they've done such good callbacks like that. I love that shit. I like, right? Because like we still can appreciate the line. It's not only good because it's a callback, which right is like for me the best kind of homage or callback is where like you don't need to know that's what it is
Yeah.
and it still works.
Mhm.
And this series has done that really well.
Mhm.
But yeah, so we got the final shot of Wolverine with his fucking adamantium pulled out.
He'll make it.
I
He'll
mean,
he'll walk it off.
yeah, he'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be
Yeah.
fine. He'll be better.
I had the figure that they released as a kid. I loved it of like, because he goes beast mode in the comics after this, where he's like kind of got like ape arms. And that was like one of my favorite Wolverine figures when I was a kid, which I have no idea why. I just thought it was like cool because he looked kind of
I
like a
have
monster.
some ideas why.
I was like, you have seen the men I've dated.
I just love any moment when Magneto like claps his own helmet onto Charles. That's great. I love that. Like that's the true shut up moment for me.
That also felt like I don't know why, but yes, that felt more like of an insult. It's like, oh, he slammed his helmet on Professor Xavier, but it's like, what the fuck? Like, doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Well, it's kind of scary though, because like he could crush the helmet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And also,
like-
I mean, I'm assuming it barricades
The
Charles'
telepathy,
powers
yeah.
into himself, right?
I know, but there is a scene where it cuts right to him yelling his name no with the helmet on too, which I
Yeah.
think was just so corny and funny. So it's like
Like
But-
even as he's dying, it's like a little bit
yeah,
of a
with this
sign.
Magneto helmet. I'm like, oh, okay, girl, get up.
And I've said this almost every episode. I'm very surprised that Disney let them even have that imagery of like the metal coming out of Logan and like the blood.
Yeah, that is surprising.
Right.
I wish it was gorier.
Yeah, I kind of do too.
Was this the episode again? They all kind of blurred together, but is
Fair.
this the episode where the sister of what's her name, the bird lady, and she
No, that's
says like the Milky Way ghetto? Was that this one or the one before?
It was 2 ago, I think. Yeah,
Oh,
that was good, right?
I died. I want that like on merch because it's so
Yes, that's funny.
it's so funny. When I heard that, that was actually the gore didn't surprise me, but that line actually surprised me. Them saying that I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, okay, going there.
All right. Well, since we are getting close to the end, I have a special interview with the voice of Nightcrawler, Adrian Huff.
Hi.
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Good, good.
We just got to hang out. What, like a week ago? I think. Yeah, a week ago, right?
We did in Philly. Lady J cosplays event, Mutant and Proud. That was fun.
And was that your first time in Philly? I forget if you told me.
It was my first time in Philly, but my parents there when they moved to this side of the world from the UK, they studied at the University of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I was born in Philly, but always lived in Jersey, but I'm like
Right.
close enough. But so do you want to talk about how your origin, how you got the original Nightcrawler job and how you got called back?
Well, years and years and years ago, when I was young, I had this agent, and I was in Toronto. I'd spent 10 years in the UK, and I was in Toronto, and in the UK, I'd worked up a whole bunch of European and whatever different accents and British accents, and so I was sort of known in Toronto as the guy who did accents. And my agent teamed up with a voice agent. I got a couple of commercial voiceovers. And that's kind of fun. And I'd done voiceovers for medical videos. My mother used to do medical videos, and she'd come and narrate this. And so I learned how to say complicated things in doctor speak. And so this audition came up. They were looking for a German accent. And they said, we just don't want Colonel Klink from like Hogan. They didn't want it. And so I'd studied a few different German accents, and I remember but it's just when I saw that script, look in your heart, Herr Logan. When I saw that, it just went, oh, I know what this is. And, it was the soulfulness of it. There was a sort of playfulness inherent in it, and this sort of sermonizing thing. And there's this little waiting room, and you get the script there, and then you say, okay, come on in. I went in, I stood in front of the mic, and there's Dan Hennessy, who had like Robert Plant hair, and he's really cool voice guy, like the director behind the glass. I said, "Would you try one?" She said, "Sure." Okay. So and I don't remember what happened until I got to the end. And I sort of looked up, and Dan was looking at me like, "He's a very passionate guy." I went, "Yeah. Do you want to try it again?" "Sure." And then did it again. But that first take, it was just like, like taking flight. It was like whatever I brought to it and the script, which was amazing, just kind of matched. And it was, and then the next thing I knew, a few days later, I was in a voice studio sitting next to Cal Dodd doing physical editor, like literally his fists were balled up, and you could imagine the blades coming out of his knuckles, and Lenore Zann on my left, being Rogue, and I think Norm Spencer was in there, and I don't know if Allison Court was there, but there's me, Norm, Cal, and Lenore, and that was my first experience in an animated studio.
I love that. That's so cool. I didn't know how often y'all actually recorded together. Was that the norm, or like sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't?
It was the norm back though in
Okay.
those, because we play off each other, and we learn skills like don't overlap, and don't, so that someone's line doesn't get a bit of your line in, if they like a take of one and not a take of the other, so you don't overlap. There's lots of skills involved that we just don't do anymore. Now we just do it solo.
Yeah. Did you record all of your Nightcrawler for 97 solo?
I did. Sadly.
What was that like? Because I know everyone has said that you all didn't know it was X-Men, right? Like you didn't know.
No. Well, what happened was that about 5 or 6 years ago, there was this big animation that I wanted to be up for, and my voice agent, who's a terrific voice agent, I tell the story a lot, God bless Ralph, he's a really great voice agent. But about 5 or 6 years ago, there's this animation I wanted to be up for, and I said, "Just tell him I was the voice of the Nightcrawler in the X-Men animated series." And he goes, "Nobody cares about a 25-year-old cartoon." And I was like, "Okay." And then 2 years ago, when he got an email which he forwarded to me, which said Adrian might recognize these lines. And it was this, I'm not going to tell you what the sneaky title was. I don't know if we're allowed to say what it is now, but it didn't say X-Men 97. But, and it was just basically my lines from the Nightcrawler episode. And I thought, God, can't I even get that anymore? And I went, okay. So I recorded it, and then clearly they were happy with it. And next thing, a few weeks later, a month or so later, there's an appointment to go and record some of this secret show.
That's so cool.
When we went to the premiere in Los Angeles, the big fan event there, listening to like George Booz's Beast, I mean, it just sounds like fresh as a daisy, and Lenore, of course, I mean, has always had that voice and always will. Like, it's just freaking glorious.
Yeah.
And Cal, of course, is Cal, and yeah. So I mean, it was just, it's just kind of like it's like an old bike which is sort of rusting in the back shed, but it actually still runs. They put some oil on it and it runs pretty good. So the other thing I have to say is that the writing is so amazing in this sequel, I guess we can call it, that it takes the characters in, and not only the old way, the first I was only in 2 episodes 25 years ago. This was basically 2 days of work, but the character qualities from there, they're still here. But then there's all these other things. There's when Nightcrawler appears in Genosha, he's like this playful kind of energy to him. I remember when I got to record that, and it's I think my first time in the studio for this, and the Meredith, the voice director, and I just kind of read those. How come mine fun? And I was going, okay, what's happening here? And she goes, "Oh, he's bamfing in and out." And so I was like, "Oh my God, that would be so much fun!" So like, I sort of threw in a woohoo, haha, and here we are, and so the playfulness of the character is there, and the soulfulness is there too, and now of course we've just seen his kind of like the fighter in him. And I mean, it's like, what a gift. He's so layered, and it's not just one, one layer of character. And that's what's so brilliant about this show. And like Bo DeMaio and Dan Castellano have like done an incredible job. I make sure that I watch the episode each week because it's so explosive, the online response, that I feel like I should remember what I did. You know? But this last episode, I remember I had to do some ADR, which is where you've already recorded the voice, but then they've animated something and they need a few little pieces added in. And I hadn't seen any of it. And so it was just like all prelay animation is what we call it. And so there's this episode that we just had, where Nightcrawler is bamfing in and out and pulling all these characters all over the place and then we see that point of view of what it's like in there.
That was so cool.
And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. But I said, can I see this? Because I was just doing little grunts and everything in there. And they said, yeah, sure. You haven't seen any of it yet, Adrian? I said, no. And so I was watching and I was tearing, like that whole section, I was tearing up and so kind of moved and geeking out over this show that was back that I was in. And sort of in the corner through Zoom, I felt them geeking out at watching their Nightcrawler geek out at what they'd done. And it's just an incredible thing to be part of. I have to say, I've been doing this a long time, and for at this stage to suddenly have something come out and be so incredibly well received. Well, I mean, Lenore tells stories about how in the old days there was all this fan mail for us, and that we never found out about because it never got to us through whatever channels. And in those days, of course, it was written on parchment for quill, yeah, and so in a sense, you spend a couple of days in the studio and you do something, and people say, "Oh, it's a fan favorite," and you go, "Really? Well, I don't know. I'm walking down the street today, and someone's accosting me. That's great, but seeing what's happening online in the last few weeks about since the beginning of the show, and the response to Nightcrawler in particular is." It's wild, yeah. It's wild at this stage to kind of
even like I actually am so glad we're doing this after last episode so we could talk about that action scene because it is so cool. Did you know that you were going to get a title card though?
I did not know I was going to get a title card. In fact, when it came up, was it episode 5 or 6? I was I was watching it and I went, oh.
I do want to ask you. You mentioned that like. They said they didn't want Nightcrawler to be Colonel Klink. Yeah. There is a world in which someone does that accent and it is wildly cartoony, right? Like I often think sometimes when I met you, I was surprised you didn't have an accent. So I was like, oh, he's so good at this. He probably is German. Right. He probably,
Probably just when he talks like that all the time. So yes, I play a lot of accented roles, and I kind of naturalize them so that they sound like the person is from the place, hopefully. So yeah, that was always my intent. And they didn't want it kind of cartoony, and they didn't want it kind of harsh, like because there's a version of that you can be like, and that's not who he is. And it was in the script. And there's also, I remember watched an actor do a wonderful Northern German accent, like Hamburg, and it was very light like that. And I said, oh, I've got to use that. So I basically stole it from another actor and my own work. And
no, but I mean, there have, and no shade to anyone else, but there have even been like, live action versions of these superheroes when sometimes there's an accent and it's like, hey, what is that accent? Like, and it can take you out, right? I always say for every X-Men episode, I will look up all the like articles of like Easter eggs and whatever before we record, just to cover my bases, because there's always so much packed into every episode that there's bound to be things, even with 3 watches before recording, that I miss, right? So I'll
Yeah.
always look up like little articles about like things you may have missed or Easter eggs or whatever. And almost every time there are like 5 things that I'm like, well, I missed that. Like,
The Watcher was the one that I missed, and
oh,
it just
really?
never in that episode 5.
I know in case it's an upcoming, you can say it's an upcoming moment, but so far in 97, what has been your favorite Nightcrawler moment?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, first, just his first entrance, I guess that's the obvious one. But again, that one that just happened where he's, he's bamfing and he's taking people with him, and then we see inside it. I mean, that was my favorite moment because that was the moment I got to watch when I was doing the ADR on it later, and just the kind of it's just this magical world that he takes us down. But what's that like to teleport? And that's the exploration of it, and what does that do to the psyche of a character, that's your life, that you can just go through some portal of some kind. I mean, I think that was my favorite moment. Like it's got to be the Bam thing.
That's totally fair. This show does a really good job of making the action comic booky without being like hokey.
Yeah.
It like makes it big, but not like so big where you're like rolling your eyes, right?
No, I mean, I'm always surprised when I'm in doing a scene and I go, oh no, I have to be emotional here. I can't just fake my voice out there. Like, I am Nightcrawler, I can't do that. It's not feeling anything. No, I have to think about it, and like that. I mean, the speech he does over Gambit's.
That made me cry, you jerk.
Well, just buckle up. There's more coming. And but it's just lovely to do, because that's one of the things we live for as an actress, to be able to sort of express emotional moments. And I get to these scripts and I go, fuck, I thought I was just going to come in, say 5 or 6 lines. No, I go, okay. Second Meredith, and then I go, right? And I like to do like several takes in a row. So they'll just let me, like, you only do your own lines, and sometimes they'll read the other lines opposite you. But often I'll like to just go through a bunch of takes just to kind of, it's like swimming through an obstacle course with the lines, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the punctuation. I mean, I did a fair amount of Shakespeare, like trained in Shakespeare. So you watch the punctuation and you watch the way the words work, and you just let those words infect you, and then suddenly you find yourself with a moment and a beat and an emotion, and then so I like to sail through it a few different ways and a few different times, and then I'll go, just one more, and they're great. They just go ahead,
It makes sense that you are like have a background in Shakespeare, because I do feel like I'm a big horror gal too. I'm a big superhero person. I always feel like some of the best actors and performers in superhero and horror stuff are folks like you who do have a really big background in the theater. So like, even if it's, you get a chase scene and then you get hacked in half, you still like bring it. You know what I mean? You still are like, well, this person's scared, I'm going to do that. You're not just like, whatever, this is dumb. Like, bleh. Like,
no, yeah.
A few years ago when the first X-Men movie turned, God, I'm like, what anniversary is what? I think 20. I did like Summer of X-Men, where I covered like I picked and choose like certain animated series episodes to cover, and I covered most of the movies. And I had the Leewalds and Lenore on back then. And even back then, they were like also gracious and spoke so lovingly. And like, it was the first time I had met them, and Lenore kept going into Rogue's voice, just like randomly she would go into Rogue. And I always say that's still like one of my favorite like episodes of the podcast I've ever done. Because it was nice that like, 10-year-old me would be so excited about this, and like, but adult me is also, and they're also so freaking nice. Like, like Lenore had trouble logging in to Zoom and was like, oh, here's my phone number, just call me. And so we like talked it over the phone, and I got her to log in. And I was like, wow, no one's ever been that chill with me to be like, yeah, just give me a call. Here's my phone number.
Eleanor's great, and what she did in episode 5. I mean, I said this in Philadelphia, out public, and I've said it privately to her, is that I've known her for a good 35 years as an actor, 34 years as an actor. And she's always been brilliant. She's always been like crazy talented and stunning and connected to the work. And what she did in episode 5 was just next level. And I was, oh my, I was so, it was like that. I was so proud of her. And so like, just, it was, again, it's this sort of mutual admiration club we have that's, there's a bunch of great people in there. But,
Yeah.
having known somebody that long and see them at this stage, just bringing something else and again to it, it's wonderful.
And it also her, but all of y'all, it's so nice seeing you all get your flowers. Like, I feel like everyone has been, for the most part, everyone has been so kind about this and so like, holy shit, these guys are great. Like someone was like, someone specifically on the podcast, I can't remember who, was like, and Nightcrawler sounds so good. He sounds just like the original one. And I was like, oh, it is. That's why.
Funny to say that. Okay, it's very close.
I have a specific question. Someone asked this on Instagram today, and I was like, I was wondering that. So when Wolverine's like, I got 6 reasons and has claws, and Nightcrawler teleports in with his sword, and he says, no, my friend, 9.
Yeah, total pun.
Okay.
I saw that and I went, this is a pun, right? Well, I'm good. So I played it as a pun. I went, yeah, it's a pun.
Okay. I wanted to make sure I read that
Bo
right.
is a clever writer, and it's like the playful, there's like this playful edge to him. So he's still dangerous, no, meine Freunde, nein. So I did a few different versions of that, and that was the one they picked. So
okay, I was like, am I looking too much into this, or is this okay?
No. I was leaning on that sucker. I was leaning on it just a little bit. No, it's the same as mine.
Did you think you would get like a big, huge, cool fight scene? Because like Nightcrawler didn't. I mean, he was cool in the original, but he didn't get that much like action.
Well, I wasn't thinking about it. I was just going, oh, great! I get to do a bunch of these episodes again, and what's next?
Yeah.
And when they come up, I go, oh, yeah. And remember, we're in a studio. We're not seeing it, so it's not like we're watching and reacting. We have to kind of create the vocal energy and the emotional energy of what's happening. But I didn't think anything. I just thought, what is happening? I don't know. Just show me the next script. Where's Nightcrawler? Forget all those other ones. Nightcrawler, there he is. Okay. And
and you also you mentioned this earlier that like Nightcrawler isn't severe. He's Adrian, I cannot overstate the warmth that you bring to Nightcrawler. I bawled the scene when he goes to see Rogue in the alley and they hug, and like he's telling her, and then we just see the rest of the X-Men, but they don't really say anything. They're just there. Like that is, for me, that kind of is what the X-Men are about. Right? Like, yes, there's the fun action. Yes, there's the cool costumes, superheroes. But for me, it's always just been like about found family. And, Nightcrawler said that to Jean in the last episode, right? And I just...
Blood is blood, but family is a choice. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Yeah, and it's lovely, those moments, and I love being able to play that, because again, I play a lot of bad guys, and I can edge up my voice for that. So it's nice to kind of go into this gentle, soulful thing, which is sort of in some ways closer to the way I feel about things. And of course, the rest of the cast is so wonderful and lovely, and just great people too. So it's and that found family, that that bunch of misfits who all feel different, are ostracized and pilloried, and just to find each other. And then yes, we have to fight in these storylines, but also how do we kind of, where is the heart and soul, the gentleness somewhere in the core of that. So yeah, it's wonderful. It's just like wonderful storytelling. What can I say?
What is something that I know we still have 2 episodes left, but what is something that you have not done with Nightcrawler that you would like to see him get to do, or you get to do?
I cannot comment on that. I can't because I can't say anything. Yeah, no, I can't, because if I said it and it happened, then I could get in trouble.
That's fair.
If I
That's
don't
fair.
say it, it's just a mystery.
All right. All right.
Yeah, there's just buckle up. That's all I'll say.
I was saying this during our last recording that I have never been so nervous with like superhero action scenes, because I'm just like, oh, is Nightcrawler gonna die? Oh, is Jean Grey gonna, like, I get nervous because I know we have stakes, which
Yeah.
talks to all the emotional beats we talk about, right? Because then it, it is different than a horror movie, right? Because in a horror movie, you're expecting the people to get ripped apart or eaten or whatever, but you're not expecting that in X-Men. But I do think, I'm wondering if you agree, it does feel like X-Men 97 has incorporated a lot of horror elements in like the best way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's scary, intense, and people care. People, like the fans are so invested, and because it's a great story, and it's a lesson to filmmakers and streamers everywhere, that's what you want. You want great stories and great delivery of stories, and if you focus on that, then you guys are in business, you know?
Adrian, that's funny. I don't remember where, but I was reading like a piece on one of those, on a random website that said like, this proves there isn't really superhero fatigue. It's just people want stuff that feels fresh, and they want, well, like, this is a story. You can do both, right? You can have the superhero action, but also still have like the plot and character development and nuance to a story if you put the like time and effort into it, which is no shade to anyone else who's done like whatever, but right, it can be there. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about animation and the stories in animation is that it allows us to deal with issues which in the real world might be too harsh or too frightening or too controversial to deal with. That, I mean, that, which I think is, not to be too pretentious about it, I think that's the purpose of art. That's the purpose of storytelling. It's so that we have a sense of how do we deal with this when if we just kind of deal with the horrors of the realism, it doesn't tell the story the same way. It's just like you can tell incredibly political and complicated stories through sci-fi. I love sci-fi. You can deal with all kinds of politics. You just can't talk about people on the street anymore. And
Yeah.
but that's what's wonderful about this story is it's really allowing, and we're in a difficult time right now. There's so much happening, and to have these superhero stories teach us something. I don't know what it is, but it allows us to deal with life through story. And I don't like that's not a fully formed thought. It's just I know that's important to be doing.
No.
Like there's a sense of being an actor. Why are you an actor? I don't know. I don't know why I'm an actor. All I know is that I want to keep on exploring doing it, and I want to keep on being part of storytelling because it feels good to me, and I feel like I'm doing the thing which I was meant to do. And so this idea that we have to have a pat answer for everything, and that's what's wonderful, that we don't have to have a pat answer for it. There are no perfect characters in the X-Men, right? There's no perfect characters, but they find ways of dealing and find ways of coming back to each other. And so a little fun fact is that two of us in the X-Men cast have also been in the live action movies. Did I tell you that?
No.
Okay. George Buza, I think in X-Men 1 was a truck driver, and in X-Men 3, I played Jean Grey's father in the flashback, right in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Very short scene. I've got Ian McKellen and I got Patrick Stewart, both of whom I idolized when we shot it, and sitting opposite me, and I'm sitting next to Desiree, who plays Mrs. Grey, and they have the kid coming down the stairs, and the scene took like hours and hours to shoot because the director, it's like all the different shots. I had like two lines, and I go, "What about her illness?" That's my main line. And Ian McKellen goes, "You think your daughter's ill, Mr. Grey?" And then the whole house shakes in CGI.
Adrian, that's a really good Ian McKellen.
Thank you. Well, I got to sit there listening to him all day, and Patrick as well. He's a lovely guy. He would invent the cast for each week of filming back to his penthouse apartment in Vancouver for brunch, and he would be there scrambling eggs, and there's like capers and smoked salmon, and like just an incredible spread, and Hugh Jackman and his family were there, and the Ashmores and like everybody was there, and so I'd be there, and I'm standing next to Ian. And it's the important thing is to make it on low heat and just keep scrapping.
I love that he cooked. That he actually did the cooking.
Yeah, he cooked. He cooked. They didn't have people do that. So he hosted these one. The British are very real. The British theater people and actors are very real. I mean, there's a culture over there of, well, it's just a job, right? It's just a job. Yeah. Yeah, so I was doing something in the West. Oh yeah, you're going Hollywood, are you? Yeah, sure. So there is a culture of undercutting the importance of it, right? At the same time, there's don't worry, we're really good at it too. It's like that's the undercurrent. So
I mean, I feel like you are very like, yeah, that's what I do. You're not like, you've called yourself pretentious numerous times, and I do not find you pretentious.
No.
So
Well, I think it comes from having done this for a long time, and things go up, things go down. You have a moment of attention and fame and excitement, and then it stops, and that you have to find other things to as your core values, as your sense of worth and value in the world. But it sure helps when things are going up. It sure helps when things are going down.
Adrian, thank you so much for spending time with me. I appreciate you. You are a delight. Everyone has been so nice from this cast. I appreciate it.
Give us a couple of years. We'll be like, hey, leave me alone, kid.
Like Nightcrawler who. Tell everyone where they can find you.
I'm a real Adrian Huff on Instagram, which is the main one. I'm on ADEY800 on Twitter, or is it 88? I can't remember. Yeah, and that's it. That's it, basically. Yeah.
All right.
I don't do. If I did any more, my brains would fall out. I mean, keeping up with the X-Men stuff on Instagram is now like I'm having dreams about posts, and it's all bizarre.
I had my first X-Men nightmare the other day. I just had like a dream that I was like in Genosha and it was blowing up and I was trying to get out. So like, yeah, it's invaded my brain too.
Oh dear. Sorry. Not sorry.
Everyone go follow Adrian. Yeah, thank you so much. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Yes, take care. Thanks a lot. Bye.
All right, everyone. So we are going to give our little closing remarks. What is your favorite scene, Ryan?
Okay, Nightcrawler's my favorite X-Men, and so anything that Nightcrawler's in, although he didn't have a ton of screen time this time around, so I guess I can't say that for sure. But a second place for me would be Storm getting her redemption moment and the references between that moment and the opening shot of her in like the first episode.
All right, Jaremi?
That's so hard because everything's blurred together for me since I watched it all at once. I will say my favorite just imagery that I saw so far, and it isn't from this episode, but when she's holding when Rogue is holding Gambit, I just thought was like such a beautiful just animated scene, and was just really, and like how the music just exited and it was just let us sit in our thoughts of like, oh shit, like he's gone. Like I just thought that was really beautiful. So I think that was probably my favorite scene so far.
Okay. Alex?
Storm taking out the Sentinels. Well, actually, the bestie goodbye, like the 3 a.m. bestie goodbye, and then the tornado that comes, and it's just like her face.
That was my favorite scene, was them being like best friends and the Blackbird before parting ways. I liked the framing of it. I liked that it was like the sunset colors in the background. Like I thought everything worked that was going on in the scene. And again, you couldn't tell where Jean's hairline was because of her mask.
It was so nice of the Sentinels to get out of the shot, because they were chasing them a moment ago, but the second that door drops, the Sentinels are like, oh shit, they like scooped off to the
let's let them have their moment. Yeah,
they stopped firing. Forge stopped twisting and turning and barrel rolling. They were just smooth sailing for the like girl on girl love fest, and then back to the action.
What grade do we give this episode, Jaremi?
What?
Like from an A to an F.
I rated X. No. Um, I why would I feel like I would be in a disservice as a fan and say that it's less than anything than an A. I loved it. There hasn't been anything I haven't disliked about any of
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan,
Oh, I'm gonna give it an A.
Alex.
I give it an A. Yeah. I mean, it's like it obviously it's like part 2 of 3,
Yeah.
but it also feels like kind of like a big kapow. I
Mhm.
do need to see my girl Storm get up. I need to be like, get up, girl. Get up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do we have any prediction? I give this episode, I give it a B plus only because, and I
How dare you.
definitely was underwhelmed just because
He
I
likes
was
Marvel
spoiled.
films, everybody. Just
Oh my
want to
God.
put that out there.
Get him, Jeremy.
His rating's a little skewed.
Yeah.
Can't blame
It's
the
a taste
episode
problem.
for the spoilers.
Yeah, it's a taste thing.
Well, no, I'm saying, Alex, I can't tell if that's why the only reason or like, I don't know. But I mean, it's still, I would give it a B plus. Like, it's not like bad by any means. I'm happy with a B plus. So we have one episode left. I am curious if any of you have any predictions for the finale. Alex, is there anything you think?
Hmm. I don't know. I think Magneto's dead.
You do?
Yes.
I think
That's a lot. That's a lot of claw. He took a lot of claw.
yeah, but it happened in the comics too, and he was fine.
I think he's dead.
I think
I think he's dead. The second season is probably going to be like them being like, okay, well, that was really traumatic. What do we do now? And then basically everyone being like, okay, well, I think Magneto was right, and the new school pops up.
Hmm.
Yeah, I do like the idea of Magneto dying, but sort of using his like last moment to like rebuild the polar ice caps or whatever the hell he did. Like, I think like he's got to fix that because I think he's the only one that really can fix it.
Well, the whole episode, they're like, Magneto needs to turn everything back on. It's just like,
Right. To make
a
it right.
switch?
Yeah. What happened to
Jeremy,
the sun?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, this is crazy.
I think we might find something out about at least a little snippet, right?
wait,
That's a huge part, right? About Nathan. I don't know where the sun's at anymore. I don't like.
what do you mean?
He's Cable.
He's Cable.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
All
what
time?
Yeah.
I did not know that. I thought when he was saying dad, I thought it was just like a joke. I'm being dead serious.
Yeah.
Wow.
He meant daddy in like a gay way.
Wolverine.
That's a fucked up joke.
Wolverine
There's been
does
a lot
call
of
him
fucked up
dad.
jokes. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I was literally trying to Google that answer too. Like, what happens to the baby? And nothing popped up.
So
okay.
in the
And
episode,
there's different timelines of different Nathans.
Mhm.
in the episode where he comes, like right above the episode, that's the first full episode where he's back. Because he comes back at the end of the one before it. Jean says that he says Bishop lost him in the time stream.
Okay.
Which there is some debate as to whether that means Bishop lost him as a baby or they were coming back together and they lost each other. Because I feel like it had to have been they were coming back, because if a baby just is like in a time portal vortex and lands on the ground, it's not gonna like.
Yeah, it makes Bishop look really bad too.
Yeah.
He had that baby for like 10 minutes and immediately threw it into like a time
Yeah.
vortex.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, worst babysitter in the world.
So if you like listening, you should subscribe to us. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can watch the video on YouTube. You can listen to our audio on our podcast feed. If you want to support Slayerfest 98, you can find us on Patreon, where we are going through Batman the Animated Series, the original X-Men the Animated Series, and Buffy Season 3 for its 25th anniversary. You can find us on social at SlayerFestX98. You can find me at Ian X Carlos. Ryan, where can everyone find you and your books?
The Ryan Sala is the handle that I'll use most on Twitter, Insta, and TikTok, and my books are widely available where books are sold.
Jeremy, where can everyone find you and your things?
Everywhere is at just Jaremi, so Just Jaremi, Jaremi. Also, you're probably gonna be really upset about this, but fun fact, I've never seen an episode of Buffy.
delete the episode, the whole thing.
ever.
Well,
So
he
maybe
likes
I maybe I
Marvel
have to
movies,
tune in
so
to see this and learn about it.
So maybe I should have you make you watch one Buffy episode and have you
Oh
on to talk
God,
about
I
it.
Do
would be
it.
useless. You know?
Do it.
the body, make him watch the body.
God. The voice actor for Morph, he told me the only episode of Buffy he's watched is the one before the body. He was like, I watched that and I did not like it. And sad. There's a family death and it's very morbid. So yeah, Alex, where can everyone find you?
Vox. I'm
Yes,
on vox.com and Instagram because I'm Twitter. Well, I don't know. That's fun. One guy named Alex on Instagram.
I was just about to give your handles for you.
Yeah,
Yes.
and Alex_ABAGS on X, but was Twitter. And yeah, where all the spoilers are. Don't read the spoilers.
Yes, there are a lot of fucking spoilers. All right, everyone. Well, we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.